before we go through these though, I do want to just say right off the bat, it is totally normal to be nervous. That is totally okay. People are nervous all the time. I get nervous in interview settings all the time. Was nervous while giving interviews. I wanted to give as best of an interview experience and be as helpful, as informative, but also as professional as I could be. And that can absolutely provoke nerves for sure. But the key here is to make sure that your nervousness doesn't become debilitating or impede your ability to speak for yourself and talk about things that interest you. Don't let your nervousness affect your performance. Being nervous is okay. As the old saying goes, nervousness means you are excited for something. Being scared means you don't want to do it. The key is to lean into this experience. It doesn't need to be super stressful. My rule of thumb was to never try to make an interview knowingly stressful, and most interviewers will approach that with the same kindness and sympathy and empathy, because again, they were probably in your shoes. But in terms of some other best practices in terms of getting comfortable during the interview, let's start with the first one here, which is practice. It takes practice to become good at interviewing. I don't know if you would believe me, but when I was younger, I was a very shy kid. If you were to ask me at 10 if I could ever imagine myself being up here doing a lot of performing arts, doing as much singing and on a stage and theater that I did, never could have imagined it. I could never imagine that I would be comfortable enough in this type of a public setting doing these sorts of things. But that comes with practice. This is something that can be learned. I have often gotten questions from people where they say, I feel like I am not the right type of personality for an interview like this. How can I do well? This will take you a long way. I don't believe that there is one type of personality who is the best or good at interviewing, and I don't believe that there's any type of personality that is bad at interview. We're the classic effusive extroverted type. People who stereotypically, some kids who did a ton of theater were super effusive, ready to talk about themselves forever and ever, could keep that dialogue going. And I also interviewed people who were classically introverted, were much more careful in choice with their words, did not say as many words, but still had said so with more words. And I think that both of those people can do interview setting. So I encourage you to try your best and to not write yourself off interviewing. I think it is absolutely possible, and practice is the number one way to work towards that. Practice with your friends, your family, in front of the mirror by yourself. Once you practice, doing a couple of them, I guarantee you will begin to get the hang of it, and it will get easier. Again, like I've said several times throughout the course of this stream, I would not recommend practicing your answers to the point where you have them memorized, because college interviewers can tell when you've recited something that you've rehearsed a ton or that's been. Again, if you are going to prep, I would recommend question or each particular event that you're going to describe, because again, sound overly scripted, and you want to preserve that conversational feel. Again, there may be some back and forth between you and the interviewer, so you want this to flow as naturally as possible. And this is equally challenging. This is a challenging thing. It might feel weird for you to be talking about yourself. This might be one of the first times where you are being asked so consistently to talk about yourself. The college app is a lot about selling yourself, and this is also what the interview is for. These interviewers, we want to get to know you, and the best way for us to do that is for you to get comfortable talking about yourself. Don't undermine all of the fantastic things that you've done, all the hard work you've put in. This is really important in terms of getting you to where you are, so don't sell yourself short. You have to be your own champion. There are plenty of others who are going to be standing behind you doing that as well. Your recommenders, your teachers, your mentors, your family, your friends, but you also need to be the hero and main character of your own story, and that goes hand in hand with taking ownership over the things that you've done and you have achieved. These are important. So be mindful of what you've achieved and be prepared to use that and talk about it as a way to sell yourself. All right. And finally, we have Last but not least, this should go without saying. This is usually not a problem for most people, but I absolutely do want to say it explicitly. Take the interview process seriously. Take every single interview seriously, whether it's for your dream school, your target school, or a safety school. Any interview, trust that the interviewer is walking in there prepared to give it 100%, and so should you. Even if it's just for something like a club position at your school, and the people interviewing you are just upperclassmen, a couple years your senior, each interview that you do is going to give you some really good practice for the future. So take that to heart, approach every single one with sincerity and drive and preparation and just overall intention. You deserve to meet your interviewer halfway and give it your all, because at the very least, you are learning something about yourself. Even if you think it's not your best interview, even if it's not your favorite school, every one of these experiences is valuable. So be sure to treat it as such. At the end of the day, in circumstances like these, there is an evaluative component. If it's a college interview, your interviewers are looking for someone who they think is reflective of the fit and the values of the institution that they went to, a certain type of kinship, someone that they feel embodies the qualities that the school represents. So you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you show them that you are that person and that you are the person who is best positioned to be a representative and contributing member to whatever environment that you're headed to next. All right. And with that, we have reached the end of our presentation for today.